Hi, and welcome to OWTV, everybody. My name is Ronald Renanthra Lee, and with me today I have Michael Rhyno Willoughby, or the King of Ilios, as was declared by Nightmare social media. So, hey Rhyno, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, dude. I'm, as good as you can be doing off a 0-2 start, but I'm doing pretty good still.
I mean, Liquid and Space Station are strong teams. I don't think there's any shame in that, but obviously you have your sights set on higher, and I know that having worked with you for a bit. So it's nice to see you, first of all, after spending some time at UCI. Are you just back home right now? You just chilling?
Yeah, I'm just back home for the summer, try to get a summer internship going at Vegas, but, unfortunately the job market is a little bit rough, but, it
Yeah,
gives me
you can
more
say
time
that
to play
again.
Overwatch, and I'm still happy to be home. So yeah, it's a good time.
Nice. And you're headed back on campus like in like a week?
Yeah, about a week or so, because school starts up soon, and just want to get back in and get settled about like a week before school starts.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be having a lot to do then with practice and everything going on. But life's already, I'm sure, headed quick your way with all these matches. So today, I kind of want to go in and talk about what happened in your first series with Team Liquid, and then talk a little bit about your second series with Space Station. But just going right into it, it feels like this meta was tailor-made for Liquid. Looking at their team, preparation wise, you probably looked and saw, okay, we're playing the runners up immediately. How did you prepare with the Nightmare Squad going into your first set of matches for the series?
Well, yeah, kind of touching on the first point, this meta was definitely tailor-made for Liquid, and it's like, can't complain too much about it because it's also a really good meta for us. Like, especially for me, I think I'm a pretty good ball player, so I'm not complaining that's a ball meta. But yeah, I mean, they all pretty much are on their best heroes. Maybe Wu Yang was the only question, but Vega is pretty freaking good at Wu Yang. So I think they have that meta down to a pretty good T right now. And yeah, going into the matches this weekend, we weren't that nervous. Like, I don't know. I think last stage was the same. We were pretty front loaded with matches, and it sucks, having to kind of rush preparation a little bit, but it's also eases the nerves a little bit because you know that they don't have as much preparation going into it either. So it kind of is just a match of who's. I mean, every match is a match of just who's the best going into it, but this really is kind of just nobody has the meta down fully yet. So it's just a match of who's better as a team. And I think they showed it, which is unfortunate. And as for SSG, I think it was the same. Although the meta wasn't perfectly tailored to them, I think they also played very well, playing to their strengths, and we did not. So.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about kind of the differences in compositions, the decisions those teams have made. But yeah, strength of schedules wise, I think Nightmare definitely drew the shortest straw of playing the winners and the runner-ups. But you guys put up a good performance, and wanted to dive into kind of your contributions to the glimpses of brilliance we saw with Nightmare. Right off, congratulations on winning your first map of the season. That's something, I guess, to be happy about. We saw that your Winston make a big splash to kick off the match against Team Liquid. I wanted to ask, what was your plan leaping out of the gate on Ilios, particularly because we saw you guys actually ban Wrecking Ball, and that's one of your signature heroes. We saw you on it pretty much the rest of the weekend. So why did you guys opt to ban Ball here, even though we see you kind of on it the rest of Saturday and Sunday?
Main thing, we knew going into it that they would pretty much choose Ilios. Like, we were like, we would bet our lives on them picking Ilios. We know it's pretty much their best map. Like, it's such a good map, ball map, and just dive map in general. So we were pretty confident they would pick Ilios. And because they had first ban, we knew they would most likely ban a DPS to try to get us off a hit scan and probably just protect ban their DPS too. So really, realistically, there was no other ban that was like as kind of impactful for us as a Wrecking Ball ban, because it kind of just changes the whole tempo of the game. And we knew that we felt pretty confident in our Winston comp still. So we just decided to go for it, send it, and take the Winston mirror. And honestly, I think it was a pretty good decision. I felt like I played pretty all right. I could have played a little bit better, and we still took the map. So, I mean, I think overall it was just good preparation for us on our map scouting and map ban.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, talking a little bit more on that, then you said that the DPS ban would be likely to come out for a protect pick. And we know Seeker is not a flex DPS player by trade. And from the Korea games, I think a lot of people predicted to see a lot of Tracer, Genji, hard dive kind of gameplay. And we saw from you guys, contrary to that, a lot of Reaper. So to start the weekend with Reaper so much, is that kind of your read on the meta, or is that more of like a thing you're pigeonholed into because Seeker is not a flex DPS player?
In sense, Seeker's not a traditional flex DPS player, but we are 100% confident in his abilities to be able to go out there on Tracer or Genji or Reaper or literally anything and go out there and make an impact. So that wasn't necessarily our decision making. I just think it was more so comfort. I think Seeker's the best Reaper player in the region, and I think he really felt comfortable on it. And over the last week of scrims, it also felt pretty strong in scrims. So we kind of were just trying to lean into that a little bit more. And we also knew that they had a lot of practice on their Tracer Genji comp, and it was their best comp. And considering it wasn't our best, it was like kind of similar to EWC in the sense that like I don't think it makes a lot of sense to go in and mirror a comp like how you'd mirror Sim into Twisted Minds. It's just like I feel like it's better to play for your strengths and just try to win the match that way rather than go out and try to mirror comp and probably end up playing worse that way.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I guess in your opinion, then, what makes Reaper really strong specifically this meta? Why do you guys lean into it so much? And like, when was it kind of discovered that, okay, Reaper is actually pretty viable right now?
Yeah, so on the first point, Reaper is just so strong. Firstly, he just has 300 HP. It's just so broken. He's just 300 HP, and then if you give him Ruyang Orb plus the lifesteal he has from just his like shooting, he like it's so hard to kill him. Even if you force Wraith and whatnot, like it's so hard to kill him unless you're playing like Diva or maybe a hard hit scan. But if you're playing a hard hit scan, it's like you can also get the tempo set on you really easy. So it makes life honestly really hard for a tank player. In general, over the last like week of scrims, I don't even know how people started playing him. I just know that he started showing up and it just felt really hard. He's just so annoying. Like he doesn't like completely change the game, but he just like zones entire parts of the map because he's just so obnoxious to deal with.
I got it. Okay, so he kind of shadow stepped in there to scrims and sneaking up into all the practices. So for you, I'm sure that's really annoying. You are obviously one of Nightmare's tank players. What would you say is important to keep in mind then in this meta when you're playing things like Winston or Ball into the Reaper matchup?
Big thing is just cooldown management. Your cooldowns, their cooldowns. If like I always tell my team, if there's a Reaper, like I need constant scouting on him. Just because like I remember one time in scrims, I was like playing Winston and I did not know where the Reaper was like 2 fights in a row, and I just jumped like I did like a stage jump and I just jumped into him hiding in a corner and I just fed like a bot. I was like, oh Jesus, this is not fun.
That guy turns Overwatch into a horror game, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, dude. Some Reapers are pretty weird with the way they play. But no, I mean, a big part of it though is just cooldowns. You just have to be aware of your cooldowns, be aware of their cooldowns, and just overall like space management in the map. You just have to kind of be able to see from like a bird's eye view, if that makes any sense, and just try to be able to visualize what's going on so you can better control map space.
Got it. So that means going into the rest of this weekend, do you anticipate, next weekend, do you anticipate more Reaper showing up across the region? Do you think he is the de facto strongest pick right now? Is he like kind of the answer to the dive meta we're seeing?
I don't know. I think he probably will be. We'll probably see him more. I just think a lot of teams will try to lean more into him, especially because I think the Genji Tracer comp is really hard to get down. Like it's really high skill level, but I do think he's not the de facto strongest. I think right now the Ball Tracer Genji comp that's being played in Korea that Liquid's playing has the highest skill ceiling, and I think it's the best comp because you just have so much potential to do so much in every fight, where with Reaper I feel like you're a little more locked into playing a certain play style, but I definitely think he's still a very strong answer and can catch a lot of teams off guard.
Nice. Okay, well, we'll wait and see the rest of the series throughout the weeks and kind of see how the things develop. Wanting to go back a little bit directly to talking about that Team Liquid series. Obviously, you guys came short 1-3, but I think where people kind of started to see the cracks really break open was when they took you to Gibraltar, or I guess you guys picked Gibraltar, but then they banned out Winston. That was a rough map. I think Scoreline showed that you guys maybe got like 1 elim or 0 elims even. That felt quite targeted. So do you think the reason for kind of that struggle was the ban? Was that like kind of targeted towards taking you out the game, or were there greater factors that kind of slowed your roll?
I think there were greater factors. I mean, we don't play Winston on that map ever. We just played it on Ilios because we thought it was a good ban for us to ban Ball on the first map. So it was definitely greater factors involved. We just played pretty poorly on offense. It definitely was a little bit on me. I wasn't playing as well as I could have, for sure. I could have helped push out the front line a little bit more. And also, no discredit to Liquid. They are, like I said multiple times, they are very good at that comp. They're very strong. They're very patient and very clean hits that they get off when they do engage. And overall, I think also just we played very poorly. Like I said, I didn't play the best. I think our comps didn't make a full, like the most amount of sense that they could have. But yeah, I mean, I think it was just a more so just we played bad, they played well, and they capitalized on our mistakes. And then defense was also just kind of same story. Just I could have played a little more aggressive as well. And I think overall we just were a little not disheartened, but I know for sure, like Gib, we went there because it's usually a really strong map for us, and especially in scrims, we usually full hold. So like I knew we had a chance on defense, but they definitely played very well, like I said, and they took the win ultimately. So
yeah, I'm hearing a lot of credit where credit is due, and I think that's very noble. And I am glad to hear that you guys are at least doing well in scrims. Like, kind of, it's a one-off thing, and we're looking forward to see you guys perform again on Gibraltar. But going into your Sunday's match against Space Station, it didn't seem like they halted your momentum entirely. You went in and you won Ilios again. Into that series, we saw it was actually really close. There's a lot of maps that looks like it could go either way, or a fight or two away from you guys actually taking them out. You were just about competitive on everything you were playing. So you were also, I guess, specifically playing pretty much every map outside of King's Row. Was there like a strategy there with putting you in more on the next day?
No, it's not necessarily. I think it was just the map picks we had. Like from scrims the last week, we kind of divvied up which maps are my maps, which maps are PK maps, and ultimately just 3 of the maps that got played in the Space Station series were my maps. I know we talked a little bit after the Liquid game, and we definitely do feel that definitely is becoming pretty evident that Ball is hard meta, because over the past week of scrims, nobody was like completely sure. We thought there's maybe some space in the meta still for a lot of off-tank gameplay like D.Va and Zarya, and even against SSG, they pulled it off and made it work. But I do think ultimately we see that it is shifting more towards a Ball meta, and if played properly, the Ball comp is the best comp. Just for the SSG game, we stuck to what we were doing in scrims the past week, and like I said, I just had more of my maps being played, so I was in.
So I think that segues well into my next question. When you guys were on New Queen Street, you started on Ball, you said, like hard meta potentially, and you guys were winning, but you had to swap Winston partway through. What caused that kind of change and kind of forced the swap?
Sombra, like as like kind of like of a like kind of plat mindset it sounds, I like Sombra's really annoying to play against on Ball. I remember watching like the morning of, I remember watching the Korea games, and Junbin was like forcing Ball into T1 playing Sombra, and it just did not seem fun. And I was just like, I think Winston was still good. I think our Ball comp, we could have played better for sure. And Ball's still very workable into Sombra. But I just thought with the way we were playing the Ball comp and trying to play a little more, just playing slower, trying to shoot out their tank a little more, I thought I could just do the same job on Winston, but play safer life. But ultimately, I just don't think we adjusted properly to the comp we had. And I ended up getting punished a little bit for it. And then we lost the lead. And once we lost the lead on that map, like we obviously still believe, but it was really hard to come back. It's always hard to come back on a push once you lose a lead so late into the game with so many meters left on the board. So yeah. Got
it. So it's kind of like Summer's giving you trouble. We're trying to adapt the best we can, but it's a kind of a bleeding loss from that point against a really good team. If you could go back and kind of make the decision again, would you swap the Winston, or would you try to thug it out on Wrecking Ball for the rest of the series?
I think the Winston swap was honestly fine in totality. I just think when we were on the Ball comp, we could have maximized what we were doing a lot more, like especially when we were taking fights on their side of the map. I know we've reviewed it already a little bit, but we definitely had a lot of space to improve, and a lot of fights we could have taken differently to give us a better chance of winning. So ultimately, that's more so what I would have changed rather than just a hero swap.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because going into Saravasa, which ended up being the last map of that series against Space Station, you guys did play Wrecking Ball all the way through. You started down rough with 2 points, like given away, and eventually ran it back, tied up the series, and almost did a full reverse sweep. But then they swapped Mauga for the very last point, and that was kind of rough. Talk to me kind of about your mindset in that series, like starting down 0-2. What changed to kind of make a near run back possible for you? And then what went wrong at the end?
So we started down 0-2. I honestly felt like I was playing pretty okay, and I was really just trying super hard just to listen to my teammates, try to peel as much as I could on Ball, because we knew with their D.Va comp that and their Moira Lucio, like they pretty much just had they had to go so aggressive. So we knew we just had to sustain through the 5-man pushes, because they were just 5-man pushing, and we had to try to sustain, and once we could turn the fight. And I was just trying to do my best to help peel and give my team shields and do as best as I could in those fights. And once we were down 0-2, honestly, we should have lost 0-3. We lost that final fight on the 3rd point, but I popped mines on the point and they ended up C9ing. So it was honestly really lucky. And I think the 4th point we won just because Rocket got a miracle 2-pick for some like out of thin air, like you just killed two. Honestly, we were kind of lucky that Cervasa went the way it did. And then the Maga pick, I just think it was more so nerves, because I don't think the Maga pick was honestly that strong, especially because their point touch was so weak. But ultimately, I just think it was, we were like, if we lose the series. So I think it was a little bit nerves, and we were playing a little more passive than we should have. We gave them a lot of unneeded space that they should have fought for some more space that they actually needed to take. And ultimately they were able to just get good old econ, and it was like Maga Cage 99-99 on the final point, and it's like it's a hard ult to deal with. Even though it didn't get that much value, we had to play around it a lot. We had to play around all their ults, and ultimately, I mean, if you need ults to close out a map on or a point on Cervasa, I think Maga is a good time to do it. So good swap from them.
Yeah, cage fight for the very last is going to be hard to deal with for sure. So, I mean, good to know. I think luck plays a part of these matches, obviously, all the time. But I think it's, again, nice to hear you guys own it. And I'm looking forward to kind of seeing the adaptions and the extra confidence going into a scenario like that again. I guess I wanted to talk a bit about the meta before closing things out. So we talked about Ball being the strongest potentially throughout multiple regions. It seems to be the case. I guess as the Ball player for your team, what is the role of Wrecking Ball in this meta, and what's important for you to do for your team to succeed?
Well, the role of Wrecking Ball in this meta is the same as like tank in any meta. Ultimately, you're just trying to control space for your team. The way you do that on Ball, I think, a lot in this meta. I mean, it depends on comps that the other team is playing, but a lot of time it's either setting up engages on the back line or trying to help push out front line in DPS angles, so to get space for your core to be able to play the game a little more and get more damage off, especially when a character as strong as Wu Yang is being played so much right now. If you give Wu Yang enough time, especially with all these insane support players being able to play him and hit all their shots, like that character does so much damage. So if you give him enough time and space to actually get value in some of these fights, he can really turn the tides. And I really think that just ultimately playing Ball, you just have to be like, it's similar to like what I said about Reaper, but it's the same in any comp. You really just have to be wary of like space control and cooldown management. Like it's so easy on Ball to just kind of get overwhelmed and feel like you can do more than you actually should be doing. And I think he's really just good at controlling space, and he's also really good at being able to adapt mid-fight and just kind of go really quickly from shooting out a DPS to peeling his backline with shields or something similar. So I just think he has such a high skill ceiling to be able to just like carry fights so hard and shoot out front line and then go back line. And his ult is really strong, and he has so much HP. And like, I love this character. I love this character to death, dude. And I feel like there's so much always going on with him, but that's what makes him fun, and that's what makes like the comps with him fun. And ultimately, I just think that I think this is a really good meta for us, really good meta for everyone to keep playing dive. And yeah, sorry, I know I went a little off topic.
No, I think that's all good. Yeah, I think one of the funniest things I remember regarding Wrecking Ball was a comment I saw on Twitter, actually, and it said, I think someone was complaining about a different character in the game, and the guy commenting was a Ball player. So the reply was, "Yeah, you're literally on a character that can choose whether like they die or not. Like it's he has a lot of control, and I think it's really skill expressive, like you said. So it's been fun for me watching a lot of Ball played, to the dismay of I think a lot of people seeing folks pick up Wrecking Ball for maybe the first or second time in the ranked games. But it is what it is. I want to talk a bit about actually splitting time specifically, because you are on a team where this is kind of a unique situation. Not a lot of teams have tanks like split time as much anymore, but obviously you have Painkiller on your team who plays, it seems, a lot more the brawly maps, or he plays like kind of the ground tanks. In regards to you and Painkiller, then what is the philosophy between who sees playtime on which maps on the Nightmare roster?
It's really just strengths. Like, I guess in a more traditional sense, like I'm like the quote unquote main tank player, and he's like the off tank player. But I know we both have a good amount of flexibility, and he's really good at like what you said. Like, right now, like all the hybrid maps for the most part are like really good, like brawly maps or like ground tank maps. And I really think that plays to his strong suits, which is why we've been playing him there a lot. And for me right now, which is Ball being so strong and overall the map pool being very dive centric, I feel it plays into my strengths a lot, especially just playing Wrecking Ball and being able to swap Winston, and I can always pull out the other ground tanks if necessary, but they're just not as strong right now. And ultimately, just our ideology is just to keep playing to our strengths. And I know for me, and I believe I'm speaking for him too, but I have full confidence in his abilities whenever he needs to go in. I'm never, I'm never butthurt about sharing playtime. I'm never butthurt about having to lose some maps because I have full confidence in him. I just want to do what's best for the team. I want to win. And, that's why, last stage I happily sat out. He's so good at Ram, so good at Hazard, so good at just being able to swap between Ram, Hazard, Orisa, Diva, everything. Like, it was really great to see. And, I have no complaints with that. And I'm just glad I'm able to go in this meta, play a lot more, and play some ball and have fun.
That's very heartwarming. Yeah, I love to see it. I think there's always maybe a little bit of tension between who gets to start and who doesn't, but I'm loving that you both get your times to shine this meta especially. Actually, that segues well into kind of our last few questions. You have matches coming up, obviously. Your next one is against Dilducks, so I'm sure we'll see a little bit of you, a little bit of Painkiller. Going into, I guess, match 3 after kind of 2, I don't want to say disappointing necessarily losses, but being down 0-2 to start your season, kind of what are your feelings going into match 3, and if you have any words for the Dilducks going in?
Although we're down 0-2, like I said, like going into this weekend, we were pretty confident. Even after this weekend, I still feel like we're pretty confident in our abilities. We know we have a lot to improve on, a lot to work on, but should be a pretty easy 3-0, I'll say, for Dilducks. I'm pretty confident. I played Cassidy last time. We played them last stage and beat them for a map, and I know they have a different roster. I mean, they're all good people, but I think it should be a pretty easy 3-0. So.
Well, all right, fans, there you heard it. 3-0 coming from Nightmare against the Dilducks. Any last things you want to let the people know before we close out the interview?
Just thank you everyone for supporting, and to all the Nightmare fans. I know it's not the start that you really wanted to see, but I can assure you that I promise you we're all confident, we're all coming back, and you'll see the work pay off in playoffs, and I promise you that.
All right, so there's a playoff promise from Rhyno today. We'll see Nightmare up there with the behemoths towards the end of the season. But Rhyno, thank you for sharing your time with me today. Good luck with your match against Dilducks. And for me, this has been Renanthra with OWTV. I'm signing out. Thanks, everybody.